As parents, we are not allowed to have a favourite child. As medal collectors, there is no such restriction, and of the 30-odd medals issued by the Victorian government throughout the 19th century, this, for me, is by far my favourite. It's not just the look of the medal, its simple design without any reference to one individual, nor its ribbon colours. After all, who doesn't love the classic navy blue-white combination? No, it's what it represents. The British Navy, for most of the century, dominated the world's oceans. Her trading ships operated from every port on the planet, and her warships sailed, feared and respected on every ocean. This could only have come about because of the service given to the country by the men of the Royal Navy in the late 17 and early 1800s. The men of Trafalgar and the glorious 1st of June. They served under commanders still revered today: Hood, Howe, Duncan, and of course the immortal Horatio Nelson. It is to these men that this medal was awarded, belatedly and somewhat reluctantly, by a nation that should have been far, far more grateful. The Naval General Service Medal for actions between 1793 and 1840 was the second in a series of 3 medals awarded in the mid-1800s for retrospective service to men who fought in the Napoleonic Wars, in some cases over 50 years previously. The genesis of this medal is as a result of the Military General Service Medal, covered in the previous video, and its story is this story. So, to complete the picture, we must recap the campaign to get the MGS awarded, narrated by my better half, who you will no doubt agree is far better at it than I am.
The medal, now known as the Military General Service Medal for service between 1793 and 1814, was the first in a series of 3 medals issued in the mid-1800s for retrospective service of British troops in the Napoleonic Wars, in some cases more than 50 years previously. Ironically, the political fight to get the medal awarded at all went on for longer than the actual war. As we saw in episode 1 of this series, the war as we now know as the Napoleonic era finished with the victory by the Allies on the field of Waterloo, and the subsequent awarding of the Waterloo Medal was widely welcomed, especially by the recipients. However, the Battle of Waterloo was, in fact, only the end of a campaign that had been playing out for the previous 20-odd years. There were hundreds of thousands of servicemen, both Army and Navy, who had played an equal, if not much greater part in the downfall of Napoleon than many of the Waterloo Medal winners. These men, quite justifiably, were asking where their military award was. While a considerable amount of men on the Waterloo battlefield were veterans of the long, hard slog through Portugal and Spain, circumstances meant that for a lot of the Waterloo Medal winners it was their first and only battle. On the other hand, thousands of old warriors had suffered through the long, hard fighting of the campaign for anything up to 7 years away from home, coping with exhaustion, freezing winters, baking summers, and often near starvation, not to mention the very real chance of horrific wounds from the many skirmishes, sieges, and battles that it took to get to Waterloo. If for any reason they were not at Waterloo, for instance discharged as wounded, not able to get there in time, or even posted overseas, they received nothing. The campaign to award a medal for these men began almost immediately, but the voices raised in support were few and far between, and mainly from the rank and file, to whom few were listening. The movement grew steadily, but although there were constant conversations by claimants in various military magazines and mainstream press, the campaign was uncoordinated and unsuccessful. In 1840, a petition was presented to the Duke of Wellington, then a leading light in the House of Lords, on behalf of undecorated officers, pleading for some form of recognition for their wartime service. But the Duke, often pictured wearing a chest full of medals for the same period, declined to help, stating later that he felt it was not his place to recommend such an award, and that any such recommendation should only come from the sovereign. He suggested to the delegation that they should present their pleas to the new Queen Victoria. However, they declined to do so without the Duke's support. In 1842, the government of India announced that it was to present a medal to its troops that had fought in the recent war in China, covered in episode 2 of this series. And the Queen, on hearing of this, directed, more likely on the urging of Prince Albert, that the suggested medal was to be awarded by the Home Government in London. The Duke of Wellington, by now the Commander-in-Chief of the British Army, was directed to make the arrangements. This announcement spurred on those wanting a medal for the earlier war, and in 1844 the matter was debated after a motion by Sir Andrew Leith Hay, a Peninsula veteran, in the House of Commons, and although headway was gained, the motion was withdrawn due to the matter having no prospect of succeeding. A year later, in July 1845, the matter went to the House of Lords, but this time the cause had some much bigger guns. The Duke of Richmond, also a Peninsula veteran as aide-de-camp to Wellington, presented the same petition that had been debated in the House of Commons. The Duke of Wellington once again cited his opposition on the grounds the award was the prerogative of the Crown, not the Parliament. He also warned against setting a precedent of awarding medals for long past battles, and again the matter went no further, but Richmond was to prove tireless in his advocacy. Yet another attempt was made back in the House of Commons in 1846, this time moved by Sir de Lacy Evans, another veteran, and again was withdrawn as doomed to fail after opposition from the Prime Minister, Lord John Russell, on the basis that it was now too late to make such a recommendation. De Lacy Evans planned to reintroduce the bill in the next session, but events overtook him when a much higher authority stepped in. In the spring of 1846, the Duke of Richmond sent a copy of the bill put before Parliament to Queen Victoria, who had so far not involved the Crown in the matter. But with increasing support and careful analysis, the Queen, at a stroke, wiped away all opposition and directed that her veteran servicemen receive a medal for their former service. Once again, the Duke of Wellington was directed to make the arrangements, and he soon produced a plan. Medals would be awarded to all those who had been present at any one of the actions for which the Army Gold Medals awarded to high-ranking officers had been produced many years earlier. When presented, the Queen approved the plan and further directed that the medal be made of silver and presented to all who served regardless of rank. She also wanted it to be known as the Peninsula Medal. The day finally came on 1st of June 1847, when the London Gazette published notice of the issuing of the medal and inviting all those who were entitled to receive it to apply. The medal was only awarded to surviving claimants. A combination of factors, including general illiteracy and limited publicity for the new medal, meant that many did not apply for it, with only about 10% of those who served receiving the medal. While next of kin could not apply for a medal on behalf of a deceased relative, they did receive the medal in cases where the claimant had died between their application and the issuing of the actual award.
With the battle for the Army Medal now won, several months of negotiation went by before it was finally agreed that the Navy should also receive an equivalent award. Like the Army Medal, the Naval Medal started out as an award for which the Naval Gold Medal had been awarded to superior officers many years previously. That would have resulted in a medal with 18 different clasps. However, it quickly became apparent that there were many more actions that equally deserved an award, and over the next 3.5 years there were 5 separate and different Gazette notices, each one of which increased the number of actions for which the medal could be claimed. The final tally of actions for which the medal could be awarded, the first of which was by now 58 years previously, up to the final one, that of the Syrian campaign just 8 years prior, was a staggering 231 different clasps, by far the most awarded of any medal ever issued by the British government. Very generally speaking, the clasps can be divided into 3 different types. Firstly, there are the fleet actions, those awarded recipients for their service in the large fleet-to-fleet battles celebrated in the history books. Those of Lord Howe's actions on the 1st of June 1794, Lord Vincent's Battle off Cape Vincent in 1797, and of course Nelson's victories at the Nile and Trafalgar. Due to the number of ships involved and the resulting number of crew, these and many other similar actions account for most of the clasps finally awarded. Secondly, there are clasps for smaller ship-to-ship engagements. Usually, but not always, lone British warships, mostly light, fast frigates, given license to roam the oceans, hunting for enemy ships, both military and commercial, to capture or destroy in the aid of the war effort. Unlike their army counterparts, the taking, or looting, of enemy forces was officially sanctioned and rewarded. Captured enemy ships and their cargoes were sold and the proceeds distributed amongst the successful crews, using formulas set by the government. Aggressive captains with willing crews such as Thomas Cochrane became famous and wealthy as a result. Lastly, the third type is the much lesser known boat actions. Probably the most interesting clasps, these are the commando raids of their day, small detachments of ships' crews raiding harbours under the cover of darkness, cutting out or destroying enemy ships, often involving cutthroat hand-to-hand fighting. These clasps don't have the name of the ship from which the crew sailed, merely the title boat service and the date the action took place. Given the large number of clasps and eligible claimants, a committee was established to wade through the enormous task of sorting through more than 20,000 letters of claim. Each claim had to be matched against the relevant ship's muster book to ensure the applicant was indeed at the action for which he was claiming. That's 20,000 letters, cross-referenced against nearly 1,350 ships and boats muster books in the days before computers and spreadsheets. This Herculean task took nearly 4 years, but eventually, in January 1851, it was announced that 17,000 applications had been approved, and, furthermore, that no more applications would be considered after the May 1st deadline. In all, 17,891 medals were awarded, with a total of 20,933 clasps. The most clasps any one man was awarded was 7. 3 men achieved this outstanding feat. The medal, like many of its kind for the Victorian era, was minted by the Royal Mint and designed by William Wyon. It is made from fine silver, 36mm in diameter, and suspended from its ribbon by a no-nonsense straight swivelling suspender. The ribbon, which is 32mm wide, is white with navy blue edges. The obverse, or front of the medal, has the same design as used on both the China War and Sutlej medal issued a few years previously. It features a left-facing effigy of Queen Victoria with the inscription Victoria Regina and the date 1848. The reverse features the figure of Britannia holding a trident, seated sideways on a seahorse. The name of the recipient is impressed on the rim in block Roman capitals. Medals to officers and warrant officers include the recipient's rank. Unfortunately, unlike the army equivalent, the naming to the lower ranking men only has the recipient's name, no rank, no regiment, or, in this case, ship. This can make research into the medal's original owner hard, if not impossible, in instances where there are many medals awarded to the same name. For instance, there are 14 medals, with the clasp for Syria, all of which were awarded to John Smith. We have several examples of this medal, but the one we have on display was awarded to John Kingston. Records for the lower ranks of the Royal Navy in the 1800s are sparse, but we can tell that he joined the Navy in June of 1833 aboard HMS Cruiser, a brig. He later served in HMS Canopus, an 84-gun ship captured from the French at the Battle of the Nile. This was followed by 2 years' service on HMS Cornwallis, a 74-gun third-rate battleship. Finally, Kingston was posted aboard HMS Revenge, another 74, and a veteran of Trafalgar. It was aboard Revenge that he took part in the operations off the coast of Syria in 1840, earning him the clasp for Syria. Another example of the NGS we have has not fared so well, this one awarded to Thomas Pye. Stripped of its clasps and suspender, and at one time broached, this medal, when issued, had 2 clasps, one for Phoenix the 10th of August 1805, and a second for Phoenix the 4th of November 1805, and although I hold eternal hope that one day I might be able to restore this medal to its original condition, I realise that to find these two very rare clasps will be next to impossible. Stories originating from this medal are numerous, but one does stand out above all others: the medal awarded to Daniel Mckenzie. The muster book for HMS Tremendous during the Battle of the 1st of June 1794 under the command of James Piggott has an entry for a newborn, Daniel Tremendous Mckenzie. Because he was male, present at the battle and met all the qualifications, he was duly awarded the medal with the famous clasp. His rank is listed as baby. His mother, being female, would not have been entitled to the same medal. It was to be a few years yet until any females were due to an award for their service in support of the men at the front. Join us again next time when we will look at the final of the 3 medals for the service during the Napoleonic era, this time in India.